Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming out today. Happy Sundance. I'm Matt Brennan. I'm editor-in-chief of The Envelope from the Los Angeles Times. Thank you to Chase Sapphire for Business for having us at their pretty nifty space on Main in Park City. I'm joined by three really excellent indie film producers with a lot of experience and great credits to their name. First up, I have Lila Yacoub. Her independent films have been distributed by the likes of A24, Searchlight, and Focus Features. They've earned Academy Award and Independent Spirit nominations, and they include 8th Grade, Lady Bird, and at Sundance this year, Tuner from Blackbird Pictures. Thank you for being here, Lila.
Thank you.
Cassian Elwes is a 40-year plus veteran producer. One-time head of the independent department at WME. His credits include the multiple Academy Award winner Dallas Buyers Club, and most recently, Dead Man's Wire, directed by Gus Van Sant. Thanks, Cassian. And Mynette Louie is a Spirit Award-winning and Emmy-nominated producer and member of the Film Academy's Producers Branch Executive Committee and Film Independence Board of Directors. Her credits include Jennifer Fox's The Tale, Karen Kusama's The Invitation, LA Times Studios' own Rosemead, and 2026 Sundance selection, The Huntress. Okay, I want to invite the elephant up on the dais to start. We're in the midst of Netflix possibly acquiring Warner Brothers. We're coming off the sale of Paramount Pictures. We're in this period of sort of intense consolidation, which I think is scary for a lot of people in the industry. I'm curious, like, what is the likeliest effect for you and your business if this trend continues? Lila, you want to start us off?
Sure. Well, since I work in the very indie space, in terms of financing, it might not affect me that much because I'm still having to like scramble in non-traditional ways to raise money. But in terms of distribution, that could be problematic. But there's new companies like Black Bear Distribution that's, releasing Tuner that gives me hope that more people will come into the space.
I would say financing and distribution are tied, right? So like if the distribution is problematic, then the financing is going to be a problem. And so I think for consolidation is bad for us as producers. We're sellers. And if there are fewer buyers, then we're in trouble. There's no bidding wars. There's no, you're just kind of stuck with these three, big companies, and if they all pass, you're kind of screwed. And it's very hard to find even independent financing if there's nowhere for the film to go, if nobody's there to buy it. So I am scared about consolidation. It's never a good thing, and it's almost like economics 101,
Oh, I have so many mixed feelings about all of it. I've worked with Netflix. I had a very good experience with them on a movie called Mudbound that was here in Sundance. They picked that movie up and did a phenomenal job. And we got 4 Academy Award nominations, and they really worked it. When they're motivated, they're very good. They don't buy that many independent films, so I think that's the sad part of it all. Warner's apparently was starting a whole division or a whole kind of group of people to buy independent films. And I hope that if Warner's does eventually end up as part of Netflix, that they continue their idea of making independent films. Mike DeLuca, who I'm a big fan of, he grew up making independent movies. And the directors of his two of his biggest hits this year, Paul Thomas Anderson and Ryan Coogler, are really great independent filmmakers who make great movies with much bigger budgets, obviously, but they have a sort of independent feel to those films. So I think that's encouraging. And I think the fact that people came to see those movies is really encouraging too, because if a younger audience came to see Sinners and came to see One Battle After Another and came to see Marty Supreme, they're going to walk away from that going, that was cool. I want to see more of that. And we're making films that I hope appeal to that mentality.
Cassian, I actually wanted to ask you about, so when I saw Dead Man's Wire, one of the things that I noticed was the number of producers listed in the credits. And it inspired a really great interview that you did for The Envelope this fall, which I appreciate you participating in. But I was wondering if you could tell the story to this group about sort of pulling together the financing for that film, because it was sort of a dramatic way that it ended up coming together and happening.
Well, yeah, that was when, from the moment that Gus said he was going to do the movie to the moment that I actually wanted to start shooting the film, we'd prepped it already with 3 other directors and we were ready to go. And I was getting threatened by one of the guys who gave me money for the original pre-production with the first director, saying, I'm going to sue you if you don't give me back the money in 60 days from now. And I'm like, oh God, I got to make this movie. And I was at the Soho House and I was thinking about making the film very low budget and just knocking it out, as they say, just to pay the guy back his money. And I happened to see Gus Van Sant walking across the back of the room. Now, Gus is one of the greatest independent filmmakers of all time. And, when I was an agent, I worked on 5 movies with him, I think it was, but one of them was Melt, one of them was Elephant, which is a fantastic picture, and Paranoid Park and Last Days and I don't know, a few others. So, but we were friends, but I also know him very well. He says no to everything. And so when I saw him walking across the room, I was like, well, this is a message from God. And I ran over and was like, hey, Gus, I got the script and I would like to send it to you. And he goes, oh, great. And I knew that was probably a long shot. And then he called me the next day and he said, when can you make it? I go, well, like right now? He goes, really? Like when? How about you get on an airplane in 3 days from now? He goes, really? I go, yeah. And I think that really appealed to him because, he hadn't made a film in 7 years. And he said, where are you going to shoot it? And I said, in Louisville, Kentucky. He goes, I was born in Louisville, Kentucky. So that cinched it. And then I had to follow through on this. I have 5 weeks to raise all the money for this movie, $12 million. And literally I started calling people like, do you have anyone that has money? Do you have anyone that has money? And I'm doing this movie with Gus Van Sant. And he really wanted Bill Skarsgård, who, is fantastic, but not like a huge star yet. He's going to be. And was in Nosferatu actually when we were in prep on the film. So that actually was helpful. And then he really wanted this guy called Dacre Montgomery. And I was like, we have to get some other people in this film that have a little bit of name value. And he's like, well, who? And not that Dacre doesn't, he was on Stranger Things, but these were all like real up and coming young actors. And he's so smart, Gus. He goes, I want to go younger with all of this. I want to get a young audience into this movie. And he's right, was what you're talking about. And so I said, well, how about Al Pacino to play the father? He goes, oh, he'll never do it. And I go, yeah, he will. And I'm going to call him and I'm going to get him. I know the woman that had the baby with him, and she's going to help me get him to do this movie, and she did. Because blood's thicker than water. And then I said, how about? And then I got Coleman Domingo at the last moment, who's fantastic. And he did me a real solid coming into this movie because we couldn't cast that role. And we were 8 days from shooting, and I was having breakfast with him talking about doing a movie about Nat King Cole that we're doing together. And he said, well, are you doing anything else? I go, yeah, I'm doing a movie with Gus Van Sant. He goes, oh, I love Gus. Is there any parts open? I go, well, as a matter of fact, there are. There's one part that's very key. He goes, can I read the script? And he texted me this morning and said, I'll do it. And which is amazing. And then the last part, I said I would like my brother to be in the movie. And he goes, oh, Carrie's not going to play that part. And I'm like, yeah, he will. I got an in with him. So that's how that all came together. But literally the raising of the money was people started calling, and I was calling people, and they were like, how about I put in $250, but we want 3 EP credits? And I was like, fine, done. 500. We want 1 producer credit and 4 EP credits. Fine, done. And my poor lawyer was sitting there in the office for like 3 weeks, literally writing these contracts up with all these crazy things and I kept thinking to myself, I'll just deal with all the credits later. I'll just deal with it all later. This is like the least of my problems. I just got to get the movie made. I'll deal with it later. And the later arrived, of course, like 3 weeks ago. Poor Veronica and Mitchell who worked with me, have been dealing with all of this, but there are 72 executive producers.
Oh my God.
14 producers on the film. And I said to Gus, we have to put all the credits at the end. Otherwise, the film's never going to begin. We're just going to be sitting there later.
Can I just interject here? Of the 14 producers, who were the actual producers? How many actual producers were there? Real? like.
Well, I don't want to besmirch the other people because look, the truth of the matter is they all did something. Okay, otherwise I wouldn't have given them the credits. Well, actually, we were just talking about it. There's a fake credit in one of them at the very end of the EPs. We made it up because we would like there's so many. Let's just throw one in. And she created a IMDb page for a person that doesn't exist. But anyway,
So Cassian, you are telling a story about a 5-week, sort of like the gun goes off and then you have to make
it. Crowdfunding almost. It was crazy.
Mynette, you were telling me backstage that the Huntress took 10 years from beginning to end. Rosemead was 8.
Yeah.
Like, talk us through kind of like why the process is so long, because it feels like that's obscure to viewers, but it's so core to a lot of films that they take a long time to gestate.
Totally. I mean, I think 3 years is pretty fast for a film because it's sort of like a year for development, packaging, financing, a year for pre-production and production and post-production.
Yeah, for pre-production, she's going to hold you to that one.
No. Prep, production, post, and then like a year to sell and release it, right? So it's 3 years basically. So that's short. And most films take, 5 to 10 years because the longest part for me is always attaching cast. You're waiting, 4 months, 6 months for an actor to say yes or whatever, like to read the script because they're too busy on some series for Apple. And so it's really hard to get them to read. And without cast comes, right? Cast comes before financing for 99% of the time.
Like, how do you get the actors to do your movies?
Right?
How do you get the actors?
Lila, you work with a lot of big name talent. You've had Saoirse Ronan, Greta Gerwig. You have Leah Woodall, who's like just breaking out really big in the last couple of years, and Tuner. Like, is there a secret to the approach?
I mean, they're all very different, but some of it's director relationships. So that's obviously easier for me. But like Leo, we just really championed him. We just really believed in him. Seeing him in White Lotus in one day, he's just like magnetic, and he just really he fit the part for Tuner. And we just really championed him. And our financier, Black Bear, also came on board when maybe, his, foreign sales or whatever weren't there yet because he's still, not, he's coming. So it's all different ways in which the cast are attached. Each project's different.
But the secret sauce, I think, is just to figure out what a particular actor is looking for at the time. So for like Lucy Liu and Rosemead, she'd never really done a lead role in a dark lead role before in a film. She's always in rom-coms or comedies and television shows. So she was specifically looking for something darker to sink her teeth into, and so it was kind of like right place, right time. We talked to her agents. It all just was kismet, and that happened very quickly. That attachment.
Lila, you earlier brought up Black Bear. Cassian, you worked with Roque to get Dead Man's Wire out. I'm curious about the question of like what you're looking for in a distributor. Obviously, the purchase price must be part of that. But are there like other non-negotiables that any of you have when you're trying to make a deal so that that you're going to, have the right partner?
Well, first of all, you mentioned Black Bear, and it's just triggering a thing in my mind, and I would be remiss not to say it, that Teddy and I first, Teddy Schwartzman, who runs it now, first met each other on a movie called All Is Lost that I did with Robert Redford, who, as you know, this wouldn't exist without him. So I just want to give a shout out to Bob.
Yeah, thank you.
What do I look for? Well, first of all, do you really have the money? Are you actually going to do the job? What else are you, when I was an agent and I was thinking about, the multiple companies that wanted in the bidding war era, I was thinking about all the multiple companies that were interested in the films that I was working on and which one, it's not always about the money. It's about what are they actually going to do with the movie? What's actually going to happen on the other end? Because the man who's unmentionable sitting in a jail cell somewhere would buy films, just to take him off the market so that they wouldn't compete with his own films. I mean, that was horrible what they were doing. And I'm not saying that always happened, but I'm just saying that you have to really analyze it. You have to look at what they're saying. When are they going to actually release the movie? What else are they releasing at the same time? What are they going to put their efforts into? Do they have the money to do what they say they're going to do with you? Are they going to, is it going to enhance the career? Because as an agent, I was always thinking about that too. Is it going to enhance the career of the people that are involved in the making of this film, the producers, the director, and the stars, to be with this company or with that company? And of the two, which one's actually going to do the real job? Because in the end, if the movie's a success, the career is going to be enhanced. So there's so many factors that go into all of it, and it's not just about money. It really isn't. I mean, I'm being funny about it, but it's not. It's about what is going to happen on the other end.
Mynette, Lila?
Yeah, and also whether they get the movie, whether you have the same sort of vision for it to reach audiences, what the marketing is going to be like, if there's going to be an awards campaign, what else is competing for their attention, on their slate. But, the money is important because if they can pay us a decent MG, if they can put great P&A behind it, we do, as independent producers, I want to return the money to my investors so they'll reinvest in my next movies. I want to keep making movies. So it is important. But
That's critical.
MGs are few and far between nowadays.
Yeah, I would agree. I also, I think everyone's spoken to this already, but the marketing these days is very important, and it's changing, and people can't focus on anything for more than a few seconds. So to me, the like what their social media campaign is, like what the marketing plan is, and like what unique original things you're going to do to get people's attention and really get people to go back to the theater. Like, we just want people to go back to the theater. So whatever that plan is really important to me.
With Roquet, they never released a movie before. I met Megan Colligan the first night I was in Toronto. We'd just come off a huge standing ovation on a movie in Venice, which is what I wanted, to have that stamp of good approval. And we sat there, and she started talking, and I went back and what she was going to do with the movie and how she was going to do it and where she came from. And she'd been at Paramount, IMAX, and all. And as she's talking about what's going to happen with this film, I went back upstairs and I was thinking, this is the ideal scenario. They're going to buy the movie and they're going to actually do something with it. So, yeah, sure, there'll be some other company that will come along and go, oh, this is good. We've got all these names in this movie and we'll buy it for X number of dollars. And it's worth it for us because of the combination of the people involved. But she was actually going to go out and distribute this movie and actually put it on 1,000 screens, which she did last weekend. She did what she said she was going to do. And that means a lot to me.
Talking about theatrical, I wanted to kind of bring up the box office expectations game. Those of us who cover the awards race encountered a couple movies this fall that I'm editorializing a little here, but I think maybe had unrealistic expectations about what box office they would bring in. And then when they didn't live up to them, they were kind of considered dead in the water. I'm curious from your perspective as producers, Is it frustrating to have to come up against that? Is it that budgets are being set too high and need to be more realistic in there, right? How do you navigate the fact that expectations being placed on a movie by not you are shaping how it's received in the marketplace?
Well, by virtue of the fact that we're making independent films, low-budget independent films, we're going into movie theaters where nobody that goes to see a movie is going in there to say, "Oh, I'm seeing a film because it costs $10 million." They're going to see a movie because they like the idea of it, and the studios spoon feed to them the idea that they want to see it by pouring millions and millions of dollars into whatever latest franchise picture that they're sticking at. I'm not going to be weird about all those movies, but the kind of movies that I'm talking about. They just plow them with so many ads that eventually oh, I want to see that. It's almost like an automaton, oh yeah, I'll go see that. And they don't know why they're going to see it. And the worrying part of that is the kids come out of those movies going, well, I guess that's a movie. And they don't really understand that actually there's a big breadth of movies. There's a lot of different types of films. And so I think that as independent filmmakers, you're hoping that the distributor comes up with some clever marketing hook and makes it something that is a wanna see for an audience that is smart, because I believe that the films that you guys are making are for smart people. I mean, I think that's what your plan is, right? When you go to do it, and
Yeah,
I don't know.
trying.
I mean, I hate that box office is an indicator of the value of a film. I hate the betting market on box office because films have value beyond how much money they make. For me, I look at box office as an indicator of like, okay, we as filmmakers, we want our films to reach as many people as possible, you know? And so the thing with box office, looking at box office as a number now, especially for independent films, is that we lost 6,000 screens in the pandemic. There's like not enough screen space. And so when we released Rosemead this year on January 9th, it was challenging because we had a very high per screen average, like number 6 of the year last year. We released it in December and then again in January. But like to sustain that, the expectations that the theaters have is very high. You know, it's like, okay, you have to make X amount this weekend for us to extend it, you know, and then X amount the second weekend to extend it further. And so it's just really hard because there's not enough screens. So there's a lot of pressure there.
Yeah, I would agree with that also, especially the small independents don't have enough time to breathe to get their audience to word of mouth, and the distributors, the exhibitors are already like, I'm sorry, it's not making enough money, we have to let it go. So that's very challenging.
There's a lot of factors that go into all of this that are eating ourselves. One is, in order to get the money back for the independent distributors to recoup their cost of releasing a movie, they have to sell the pay television rights for the movie, what they would call a pay one deal. And it used to be that the DVD business was a roaring business, and you used to know that you would get like X number of dollars of a percentage of the box office would come through DVD sales, and so you knew you always had that. But now it's all about the pay television deal, and those pay television companies are streaming companies, and they don't want to play a film on their network or their streaming platform and take up space from a film that potentially could get 5 million people to watch it as opposed to 500,000 people to watch it. Yeah. And they want to have a, quote, minimum 1,000 screen release in order for them to make it worth their while to even consider it. So we're getting into this era where it's mass marketing, they're semi-competing with the studios. COVID made everybody just stay home and watch stuff. This last weekend for our film, one of the things they kept saying to us was like, oh, everybody stayed home and watched the Rip, and people were watching football because it was the playoffs. So you got to be smart too when you're coming in with movies as to what you're in there against and what is being sold. And there's only so many hours or minutes of a day that you can get an attention of anybody, and to get up off their couch and get in their car and take their beloved with them or whoever their family is down to the local Cineplex to watch a movie. It's got to be something that they can actually want to see, and even great reviews is not necessarily enough, because you can come out of here with these incredible reviews from films and play in the cinema, and the reviews are spectacular. And it's like, you have to see this film, and the people aren't seeing them. So it's like, what's the game now? Where do we fit into this? And I'm sure we're going to get to where's the hope at the end. We'll get to that.
Can I just say, I'm glad, Cassian, you brought up the pay one deal, because that is how, selling the film to a streamer is how you fund the P&A for the theatrical. And those pay one deals are disappearing. They're shrinking in size, and that's where, and there's only a few buyers. And if you don't get Netflix or Hulu or Showtime to give you a pay one deal, then your theatrical P&A is extremely limited. And so that's where we are right now.
I'm keeping the list of things I'll talk about at the end that I think I'm hopeful about.
Well, Cassian sort of blew my spot here. that was going to be my last question.
We'll leave it for that then.
Well,
so we're just giving them doom and despair right now. It's like, okay, I want to slip my wrist and go. What am I doing here?
Well, yeah, with the time that we have left, I wanted to sort of just go down the row and have you each identify something. It doesn't have to be like a big thing that is set to save the business. But like, what gives you optimism? Frankly, what keeps you working your tails off every day to make these movies in the current marketplace? Lila, you want to start?
Well, I think people appreciate entertaining, smart storytelling, and they will always appreciate that. So I will always endeavor to make those films. I think that each of these projects is like a small miracle in itself. I mean, just listening to Cassian's story about how he put his movie together is crazy, but it just means you just have to keep going and you just have to keep at it. So I do think perseverance is like the number one criteria in producing a film.
Yeah, relentlessness. I'm positive about it because one of the things I said earlier is that the great movies that are coming out through the studios came from independent films. And so that's the nature of it. That's the birth of it. And I hope that any of you guys out there that are thinking about making independent films actually do it. You need to be relentless. You need to have the thickest skin of any person that you know. Has to be you, because everybody's just going to keep saying no to you. And all you have to do is say, I just need to find one yes. And I'm going to look under every rock until I find that one yes. And then as far as the future of the business is concerned, sure, everybody's consolidating because of all the problems with the box office, the amount of people that are going to see films, and what should we do? And of course, the knee-jerk reaction in Hollywood was like, oh, well, let's just merge with somebody. You know, it's like, okay, hold on a second. Get people in the movie theaters. Think about that. How are you going to get people in the movie theaters? How are you going to get people to watch films on television too? Because that's the other thing. The streamers, that's their business, is to get people to watch films. So, you know, I like my movies playing in the movie theaters. I love that. That's why we went with Roquet. But I understand if some kid's going to pick up like 2 years from now and watch Dead Man's Wire on their telephone, I'm okay with that because they're going to fucking love it. And they're going to dig it and they're going to tell their friends to see it. So I'm okay with that. And I think that there are some smart people out there are going to figure out over the next 2 or 3 years that there are other ways to distribute films. YouTube is going to become a massive distribution company of independent cinema, in my opinion, because people are going to set up their own distribution platforms on YouTube, and they're going to aggregate people watching their films and make money from getting 1 million people to watch their movies somehow or other through YouTube. So I think some smart distribution company is going to figure that out at some point. And then there's going to be other platforms. And as the platforms start to merge and become less, then there's going to be other platforms that will come up, because all of us don't want to just be spoon-fed by one person telling us what to watch. We like to actually make our own choices. So that means there'll be other places that will pop up and start to show you other stuff that you might want to see.
Mynette?
Maybe I'm like an idiot and I'm like spouting stuff, but I really do believe that. I have great hope for us because I love independent films. I love the films you make. I love the films you make. And there's going to be a future for it.
I hope you're right, because I keep telling everybody I'm going to quit after these 2 films. They were so hard to make, Rosemead and the Huntress.
Don't. I just looked at all your credits and it was like, there's so many, and you guys are like the lifeblood of what we're doing. You've got to keep at it.
I appreciate that. Well, I my day job, because independent producing doesn't really pay, I'm a professor at Columbia. I teach producing there, and you know, I always think, oh, how do I inspire these students in this difficult industry? And I'm like, why are they at this school? Like, what are they going into after they graduate? But you know what? Like me, they are also storytellers. There's nothing else we want to do with our lives but tell stories. And it's like, I think, you know, we're so, as filmmakers, as producers, we're so, we pivot and we figure out how to do things. And, you know, an actor drops out, we figure out how to, you know, recast, you know, we lose a location, we figure out how to get another one. And so I think we're at a time in this industry right now where we're forced to pivot, we're forced to reinvent. We have to change the distribution systems, the financing systems. And maybe that's okay, because guess what? It was pretty, you know, discriminatory and racist and sexist anyway, you know? And so let's start new and build from the ground up.
Well, one thing that's really helped us, by the way, is because we're forced into this position as independent filmmakers to make films for less money than we used to make them for. And that, I think, is true across the board. Every great independent film that you're watching was made for less than it probably would have been made for 5 years ago. And we've been forced in a situation of making films for less, which means we need to shoot them faster. and that actually appeals to the actors and their agents because then they can go do something else afterwards quickly. But the technology has advanced so much that has allowed us to shoot faster. So that's a positive too.
I just want to say I hope you don't quit, Mynette. I hope you guys don't quit anytime soon. As a fan of independent film as well as someone who covers it, I'm really grateful for the work that you do, and I'm really grateful for you being here today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.